Good morning. You're listening to Central Wisconsin's 24-hour information station, AM 1320 WFHR. It's time now for the Morning Magazine, brought to you by Comfort Air Heating, Cooling, Plumbing.
Welcome to Morning Magazine for this October 28th, 2020. Our host, James J. Malouf, here. At 10:30 today, we're going to catch up with our friends from the ODC. Right now, we have with us not only our friends at Wisconsin Rapids Community Media, and hello to Kevin, everybody, but we have Wood County Board Chairman Lance Pliml with us. Lance, good to see you.
Thanks, James. Thanks for having me in again. Always appreciate the opportunity.
Always good to talk to you. First and foremost, how are you and yours doing?
So far, so good. It's a knock on wood every day. Every day's a new experience. Around the community, within the county, but so far so good, from my perspective anyway.
I got a bone to pick with you to start off with, Lance. You really outshine me and Kev today. You look good. Did you just come from a board meeting or something like that?
I did not. I thought somebody had to class up this operation.
Nicely done.
And I was
Nicely
probably
done.
the guy that needed to pull the weight there. So.
You see the way I dress. Nobody's expected that from me.
No,
appreciate it. When was the most recent board meeting?
Well, it's always the third Tuesday of the month, so just a week ago, basically. But I tend to have to dress this way occasionally, just kind of funny. But I was on some meetings this morning, and I actually have a meeting this afternoon with Senator Baldwin's staff. So so I dressed it up a little more than I might have if I had not to appear, virtually with them.
Not bad color choices either. You represent the scarlet there with the Badgers, so they like that part. When it comes to the most recent board meeting and everything, we haven't talked since then. Was there anything that coming out of that you think is noteworthy?
I don't think that we addressed any real major, earth-shattering issues that came out of the last board meeting. You had vast majority of it was an update on our Aging Disability Resource Centers and what that has provided to the community over a number of years as we regionalized that service. And I was there at the time we actually set that up. I believe I chaired the formation and I think I was the first chairman of that organization, and to watch it grow over those years and become successful has been it's been real rewarding.
Yeah.
I think more importantly is probably what we got coming up, and as we get into budgets, obviously that's the big one, but there are some other things, individual issues outside of just budgets coming up, and one of the big ones is the elections, and. You want me to ramble for a second?
No, go right ahead. It's your time, Lance.
But we have a great conversation always. But I'll touch on this quick, and then we'll go where you have. Elections, our county's ready. I talked to Trent Miner, our county clerk, this morning. They've got, adequate poll workers. The early vote has been huge. I think he said we're at about 50% already.
That's awesome.
We're anticipating, I think the turnout in the last presidential election participation was about 80%. We think we may surpass that, but things are going smooth there. So our county clerk and those village, town, municipal clerks, everything's under control.
Been doing some great work. I've been talking with them off air a lot, and then we had them on a week or so ago. Especially the League of Women Voters were on with us and we're talking about it. And setting up questions. One of my last questions I ask most of our guests is, "Do you guys need volunteers?" With certain, and right away they're like, "No, we're good." I was shocked. It's very seldom I'm shocked to get an answer. I was shocked. They've got this covered. They have been doing an incredibly good job.
Yeah, and this is an observation, and it's not based on any fact other than just observationally. Our polling places are manned. You don't wait in long lines to vote here, and I see that around the country. And that to me, that's participation and involvement in those communities because those poll workers are volunteers. Mm-hmm. They come out, they man those places, and they take care of it. And if I have areas of the country that say they don't have adequate opportunity, to me that's someone incumbent upon them to step up and provide that adequate opportunity for the residents of that area. So that's a different area and a different place. But it amazes me when I watch people wait in line for hours and hours, which seems somewhat abhorrent when, typically here, you say hi to a couple of friends in line, you walk in and you have the opportunity to vote. So that was big. We have a huge initiative moving forward. One of the things we've tried to roll out for a number of years is countywide broadband. And that has really come to the forefront recently with, the virtual learning opportunities through the school districts, telemed, people working from home. We really need to have the ability for that virtual component, and we don't. There's parts of the county that have no opportunity.
Yeah.
There's places that are loading children into buses to take the buses to an area where Wi-Fi is available. So we've worked extremely hard and very rapidly to roll out a countywide broadband program. And this would be a public-private partnership with an ISP where we would erect, I'm throwing out just general numbers, you know, 20 towers with microwave ability, provide broadband across the county, where we would leverage about $6 million of private donation and PSC money, and then the county would provide a loan to one of the private investors, completely repaid to the county, and at the meantime get this up and running countywide. It needs to be done from an education standpoint. You know, we have the school district buy-in, local government units, but what I need from you while we're on air is I need individuals out there. I need county leaders. I need, you know, city, town, school district people. I need consumers and business people to access the Wood County website and look how they can weigh in with letters of support, because a lot of this is grant dollars, and it's going to be based on those letters of support. So if you'd go to the Wood County website, and we'll have this up shortly with some contact information as to how you can get a letter out in support of this project, it would be great. We really have to have this wrapped by the end of the year. I mean, that's how quickly we're moving along to get this going.
This is a big one, and I'm so glad you brought this up too, because we don't more times than not when I'm talking with somebody, especially like Mayor Blazer or somebody like that, and it comes up, we have so many other things to talk about. We just don't have enough time to take time on it. I'd like to take a minute on this one because it deserves it, and you hit on some really important points there, Lance. As we go forward here, we're only going to need it more and more. This broadband, good internet, it's only going to become more and more something that we rely on. And if we needed more examples, we just went through it, where how important it is, and what we're going through right now, how important it is. So when it came to kind of rewinding a little bit, when it came to first getting to this point here where we're able to be, how much research, how much work went into just trying to, you know, even find an IP in different you were going to go to with this and such?
Well, a lot of the groundwork's been done over a period of time. You know, it's been identified. The need has been identified, and then it's getting somebody to step up to the plate and do it. And frankly, it's who came first. And you know, once you have somebody in place, competition eventually will also drive prices down.
Yeah.
You know, that's the other opportunity. You know, bandwidth is so important. You know, a great example. I was on a meeting this morning, and when we had 6 or 7 people on, we were okay, and as about, I don't know, we might have got up to 20 as they joined. Things were buffering. We didn't have the capability. We just need that bandwidth. And this has certainly, you know, come home to roost somewhat when we now have people working from home. It lends to economic development. These people that have worked in, you know, glass towers in cities have found they can work from home if they have access, you know, high speed access to be able to do it. So, you know, this is at the forefront. We're working on this extremely hard. This is basically, it started with a conversation with a few people. It's now in front of every committee. I believe we will have 100% buy-in by our county board, and then we have to put in place the funding mechanisms. But if we can do this with kind of conduit bonding, using our bonding authority and our ability to, you know, garner dollars at a less expensive rate than others, and then pass that through with some return on investment on the backside. This is a fantastic opportunity if it works out.
Whenever money comes up, you brought up the word that I always like to bring up, investment. And this is one of those ones where this is a big investment, not only obviously for the community to make, but the community to make into its future, because make no mistake about it, you are investing in your future. You may not be able to see it, you know, in a domino effect right away or in an organic way, but it's going to happen. Just take the kids, for instance, you know, learning from home and then being able to learn faster, learn better, being able to look up things quicker, and all these different things that tie into this. That's education. That's training our younger minds to be able to take over for us eventually. I mean, that's an investment in our community and our citizens, our children. And I mean, it's one little category here. There's 100 of them you and I could take turns with going on where the investment is going to pay for itself. It is an important thing to do. And we can't get past the fact that this is going to have to get done eventually anyway. It will need to get done. This is something that will have to happen in this area. And in every country, every area in this country is going to have to do something like this.
Absolutely. And we would rather be early to the table than late.
Right.
And so if we have the opportunity to develop this, it would be wonderful. You know, and some of this is payment in kind kind of things, or dollars in kind. You know, you look what we did with the solar project, which appears to be on its way to completion. There was a lot of county time invested and a lot of investment from people within the community to do the background and the work. But once this is up and running and gets going, there's also a return of dollars to the county that's significant. We're talking close to $10 million over the life of the project that's going to come in on an annual basis to help offset some of that tax revenue and levy you lose in other places. So this is big. That's a big one. The other one that burnt a lot of time at the last meeting, or used a lot of time, burnt is maybe a bad way to put it. That sounds negative. But, there's been a number of people in the county who want to see the county adopt a Second Amendment resolution and accompanying ordinance. I think it's actually called a county sanctuary ordinance, but it deals with the Second Amendment. And that was through that meeting. And there were a lot of, I don't know, Kevin, how many people there were to speak? 20, 30? A lot of people at the county board meeting that came to speak on this issue. That's been referred to the Judicial and Legislative Committee. And the reason I wanted to touch on that is it is on their agenda. And it's on their agenda for November 6th. And the assumption is there will be a number of people from the community that want to speak to that. And in complying with the social distancing rules and the capacity within rooms, I wanted to make it real clear that there's a WebEx function and ability that's on our website. So if you go to the Wood County website and you go to the meetings part, you'll see how you could attend that virtually. If you decided to attend in person, capacity in that room is going to be limited. So if we have a number of people that wanted to come in and speak, they're going to probably have to rotate in and out, wait in a hallway or wait outside the building. And that's complying with those regs so we can keep the courthouse open.
Right. And going back to the importance of broadband.
Yeah.
In an instance like this. What is exactly being discussed, though? I understand that the Second Amendment is a part of this, but what exactly is the details?
And I wish I had the resolution in front of me. I don't even think it's been drafted yet. I mean, they're dovetailing off of or piggybacking on some of those that have come from other counties. But it's really just a reaffirmation of the Second Amendment and to be able to make sure that those rights that have been eroded in some places or some people would feel have been eroded as far as the Second Amendment goes does not occur in Wood County. And a number of counties have passed this. And so they're coming before us to kind of make that case. And I'm not trying to just keep asking the same question, but what exactly? Because as far as we still have the Second Amendment, we still have that. What are the things that are being questioned or taken away or what have you? I think this is a real generality, and and there's debate ongoing nonstop. It's happened for dozens, if not hundreds of years, into what the Second Amendment protects, And I think different people, as they read it, have a different view of what that may be. But there have been municipalities, cities, in areas within the country that have banned the ownership of certain types of weapons. And I don't know. I think it would sound goofy if I said here that there can't be any limits because I don't know that the average citizen should be able to own a bazooka,
and
a shoulder-fired
AK-47.
But but all right. So but now we're getting to where do we draw the line?
Right.
And so
right.
I think this
that's why I said that's why I used AK-47.
Yeah. So I think this is where does that line get drawn? And so this would deal with the fact that it probably, and I have not seen the verbiage on this nor what's been forwarded because it hasn't been yet. It's something that's been worked on. Where do you draw that line, or don't you draw a line? Do you adopt or don't you adopt? And a number of counties have adopted. I think there's a couple that have not or have put on hold. But at this point, this is a discussion phase. And one of the things that came out of the meeting was we don't want to usurp or infringe upon anybody's right to make their case. And so what came out of that county board meeting is what's the best format for those people to express their views and not just say, you don't get to have a view. It's like any other issue. We want to hear what people have to say. So it was routed to the Judicial and Legislative Committee. The first place it'll be discussed is that their meeting on the 6th of November. It's a 1 o'clock meeting. Like I said, there is a virtual option. Go to the website and look that up. But that's where that discussion starts. Now, where it goes from there, I have no idea. Again, it's like everything else. It's, we try to involve the public. We ask you to do that. The other thing I'm going to ask, and I would do this on every issue, we limit public comment in a committee often to 2 minutes, on the county board 3 minutes. If you have 15, 20 people that are going to say exactly the same thing, I have typically got up at the front of the county board meeting and said, look, I'm willing to allow you to allocate some of your time to a spokesperson who methodically lays out a case, and maybe we let that person speak for 4 or 5 or 6 minutes instead of having 15 people come in and say exactly the same thing. Because, frankly, after a committee or a board hears 15 people say exactly the same thing or read from exactly the same script, it doesn't carry the weight it does if you had a cohesive, coherent message.
You're really trying to really do what's best for the citizens, for people, and look, they want to be heard. The best way to be heard is making your point be heard.
And point by point, lay it out.
Laying it out right.
Yeah, be comprehensive in how you do it, and kind of step by step, as opposed to just a whole bunch of views coming out of left to right field where not everybody can wrap their arms around it.
We've gotten way too far away from that. Where we need to get more, we need to get back to that a lot more. Everybody doesn't have to talk the same, and there's no proper way to talk or anything like that. But there is also a way to get your point across and be understood. And that's what if your point really matters to you, if you're not just talking loud and saying nothing, if you just want to bark, that's one thing. But if you actually have context and you want your point to be heard, you want to give it in the most constructive way you can. And the idea of what you're saying, where you have 4 people walk up and they all say the same thing, well, here's a way of doing that, not only saving time, but making the point really hit home.
Yeah, and constructive was probably a great word. And and we deal with this on a lot of issues. And sometimes I as I'm sitting in front, I go, if they would have brought that out point by point by point, it wouldn't have been lost in the discussion. And the one thing, though, I will applaud pretty much every group that has ever appeared before our county board or before committees is the civility part of this. The part that drives me the most nuts, and we touched base for just a half a second before we started today, is civil discussion, and discourse.
Yeah.
I can agree with you all day. My wife sometimes looks at me and says, how can you just kind of sit there and, and listen and smile? And I go, because screaming and yelling doesn't get me anywhere.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if I listen and I take into account what's said, and then I have a time to later go back and really filter that and think about what went on, you tend to make better decisions. And I will really applaud all the people that I have dealt with in Wood County over pretty much a quarter of a century, that we have had that civil discourse, that civil discussion, and it really does go a long way in helping you make your point.
I've mentioned this on the air a couple of times. In the last year, I've gotten more negative emails, anti-Semitic things and stuff like that than I've ever gotten my whole time in radio and in the public eye. And the majority, 90% of that, is from out of this community. And some of it not even in this state. And it speaks to your point there of when people have a point to get across here, they look you in the eye, they talk to you. There's not insults. There's not acting like a child or a whiny brat, and just actually talking, just having a conversation like you and I are having right now. It is not that difficult. It's not that hard to do.
And if you have that conversation and you listen and you remain calm and you make a decision that's, adversary to the point the other side's bringing up, most of the time they'll go, all right, I disagree, but I get where you're coming from.
Right.
Typically when we have any issue before me, I can understand both sides of the issue, and you try to take a preponderance of the evidence or what, some of the information you might have garnered along the way that's above and beyond what maybe the general public knows, the other outside ancillary costs that might come along with doing something. Yeah. But at the end of the day, if you approach it that way, typically there's buy-in. Every now and then, and this is what we talked about for a minute ahead of time, I get that discussion where I go, I'm not sure where they're coming from. Mm-hmm. I get a point. You'd like to do it this way, I'd like to do it that way. Yeah. At the end of the day, the goal is somewhat the same. And then there's some that are just, you go, I'm not exactly sure where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But there's an art to then also listening, not being dismissive, and maybe someday later, we had a big discussion the other day. I actually brought this up at our county board. When we do things at the counties association, oftentimes we have a giant whiteboard on the wall. Mm-hmm. And the discussion usually starts with, what would we never do? And then it's kind of, what do we think we should do? What should we do? And it's amazing how many times what we would never do migrates all the way over to, we probably ought to try this.
Yeah.
And so, you try not to be dismissive, and you try to take all of that into consideration.
Yeah, it's a great word, dismissive. That it doesn't take a lot to do that, to just hear somebody out, to just listen to them. It doesn't mean that you're going to change your thinking. It doesn't mean you have to change your thinking, but you just never know. Just by listening, simply hearing somebody out, maybe you do give it a different perspective from it. And it goes so far nowadays too, because we need more empathy in this world. Not sympathy, empathy. Sympathy is certainly, well, I relate to this because, well, this affected me and it's similar to what you went through. Empathy is, you know what? I cannot understand what it is like to be you. I have no idea what it's like. You go through something, you have lived a life that I have no idea what that's like, and being in your shoes, and I empathize with that. That's part of, understanding. That's part of listening to somebody. And that's something that you can do in every single conversation that you have. And it goes so much farther when you do that than when you're just barking. Nobody listens to barking. Nobody, I mean, all you hear is one or two words in that, and you're usually a swear word or something like that. I mean, you don't really hear what do you want your point to be heard, or do you just want to bark?
Yeah, and it happens every day, and the toughest part in government is sometimes the attitude is, well, we tried that and it didn't work. And then the question I usually ask is, well, how long ago did we try that? Did we try it with all the information that we have today or all the technology at hand? Was there a little bit of a change or tweak to that idea that all of a sudden made it work? As they develop things like, simple as glue. Some glue works better than others. Some is virtually, once you glue it, it's never coming apart.
Yeah.
And sometimes as they formulate those things, it's a drop of something that makes a difference. And that might have been a bad example, but nonetheless,
no, it's a good example.
Sometimes that little bit, that little drop of information changes the discussion completely.
Absolutely.
And that's why I say, sometimes we need to go back and look at what we did and go, did it fail because it was a bad idea, or did it fail because we failed in the implementation or we missed something? And so I'm a really firm believer of, changing my mind. I always say if I had the information today that I had at the time I made the decision, I would have made a different decision. And the beauty in government, as opposed to, let's say, neurosurgery, is I can usually change my mind and go back and fix it. If you've got somebody, whether it's your, head opened up or your chest opened up because you have a cardiothoracic surgeon in there, when they make a mistake, you don't want to hear them say, oops. In government, oops can usually be fixed. And you have to have the ability, the self-awareness, and the confidence to go back and say, yeah, that was wrong. Let's try it again.
That's something that needs to be a partnership, I think, too. As you look at society as a whole, our country as a whole, we need to, as citizens, be able to look at our politicians and our people in positions of making decisions and everything, that when they do get new information and do change their mind on something, not immediately saying flip-flopper, and calling them out and pulling them out of office or whatever. We want people to do that. We ask that of our people. I would want that of every citizen in the world, to be open-minded and be like, well, I think if somebody tells you they have all the answers, chances are they don't know half of what they're talking about. The smartest people in the room are usually the people that are just there listening and taking in information and sharing that information. I mentioned, it's still weird because I just mentioned this with Steph on the air in the morning hour, but the old adage of what Abraham Lincoln did. When Lincoln got into office, he didn't just put a bunch of people that were like-minded and a bunch of yes men in there. He put people that ran against him. He put people that thought differently than him because he understood, hey, I don't know everything. Hey, my perspective is not the only perspective that matters in this country. There are a lot of people with different perspectives. That's the best way we get things done, is by having different minds of different people from different walks of life coming at these problems.
Yeah, and perspective, and that's, I think, one of the most important traits. Perspective changes with new information.
Yeah.
And it changes every day, and and that's part of the, like I said, I don't like to get into the personal politics part, but it drives me nuts when I watch people tear down. I'll call it some cases, let's say, beautiful statues that were erected in this country. At the time those things occurred within our history, that's what occurred. It's history. Based on information we had today, we probably wouldn't have done the same thing. But that's because things change, you learn, and you adapt. And it doesn't mean, you need to destroy. I heard somebody the other day say, geez, I'm surprised they still have the pyramids in Egypt. And it lends pretty well to tourism.
It's a big difference between the pyramids in Egypt and some of these statues.
Well,
but I know
could
the
be,
point.
But my point is it was built back then with, labor that wasn't voluntary,
Right.
And the point is things change, and you have to have an open mind. You have to be able to look back. You have to be able to look forward. And you have to be able to change your mind.
Yeah. Lance, we never have enough time, man.
Yeah.
I look forward to talking again the next time. Thanks a lot for being with us, and I hope your meeting goes good later.
Thanks. Yeah, let's do it again.
Yeah, and a big thank you to Kevin, our friends at Wisconsin Rapids Community Media, for being with us. We have the ODC coming in. We'll get an update from them in just a little bit on Morning Magazine, AM 1320, WFHR.